While we wait for the final vote of the Senate, let's bring in Attorney Egon Cayosa, former president of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines and a constitutional law expert. Good evening, Attorney. Welcome to the big story. What do you make of how the Senate is tackling the Supreme Court's decision on VP Sara's impeachment case?
Good evening. It is good that the senators are discussing it, and the vote is pretty obvious. So, but it is very enlightening and part of our democratic process that we hear them argue and explain their votes. And there were efforts to come up with compromise motions, but it unraveled. So that's why they're now voting on the amended motion. Instead of a motion to dismiss, it's just to archive.
What does archive mean? Because Senator Soto says it is practically killing it, and that even if the Supreme Court changes its mind, although they are saying it is highly improbable, then what can the Senate do? Can you enlighten us on archiving?
Well, normally and technically, a motion to archive is to put it on hold while awaiting some developments. But in practice, and the good Senator Soto would know that he's a veteran lawmaker. When a particular matter or issue is archived, it is good as dead. But then again, the focus now shifts to the Supreme Court because, of course, as you say, and many say it's improbable, but it's not impossible. As a matter of fact, one of the senators was quick to point out a number of Supreme Court decisions where there were unanimous decisions that they themselves, again, unanimously overturned.
Senator Risa Ontiveros did point those cases out.
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
So it may be a suntok sa buwan, no? Improbable, but it's a possibility, and we await the decision of the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm. Based on the debates, it's several hours long, and still now the senators explaining their votes, what can we glean from about our democracy?
Well, we could say that it's working in the sense that people are free to express their opinions. The elected representatives argue their views, their case, and their votes. And insofar as the Senate is concerned, it's all in full public view. So we can judge them by the way they argue, the soundness of their position, or their particular vote. So to me, that's okay. That's the beauty of a public forum. And but at the end of the day, it's about an exercise of power or discretion. And the Senate is in the process of exercising their power as the senators. It's not clear at this point whether they're voting as an impeachment court, as a Senate, or as a Senate in plenary.
What do you think they should have done, Attorney Egon? No? Because they're saying we cannot convene as an impeachment court, well, some, in the minority rather, they're saying we cannot convene as an they should convene as an impeachment court before voting, and then the majority is saying we can't because we don't have jurisdiction, and that's what the Supreme Court said. And then the arguments just stem from there. But do you feel that they are still doing the right thing and just kind of airing out everything?
Well, they could do either way. No? They could sit as an impeachment court and decide, as they are deciding now, to respect the decision of the Supreme Court. But as a plenary also, they can also do that. So it's for them to sort it out. At this point, they haven't agreed among themselves in what capacity are they doing it. But insofar as we, the people, are interested to have transparency, we're seeing it unfold before our very eyes. And that's, to me, that's the beauty of democracy. We hope that the Supreme Court will also be
as transparent
and call for an oral argument as some of the critics or some luminaries are suggesting, or even former chief justices and respected justices of the Supreme Court are suggesting. We don't know. Again, that's discretionary on the part of the Supreme Court. We don't know whether or not the decision of the Senate tonight will have any impact on the next moves of the Supreme Court. I hope the Supreme Court will focus on the facts and on the law and the Constitution.
You had yourself issues with the decision of the Supreme Court.
Yes, I do. And I've been very open about that. We have laid out our thoughts on the matter, as anybody can. No? But at the end of the day, we'll have to let the Supreme Court rule on it. The MR is there. It's an effective mechanism. The Supreme Court did not dismiss outright the MR, and it, in a way, recognizes because it required the Vice President to comment on the MR.
Can you enlighten us? It says that their decision is final. It's executory, which is why the Senate is voting this way, and yet it accepted the MR and directed the VP to comment. It seems contradictory.
Let's be accurate. The Supreme Court did not say that the decision is final. They just said it is executory.
Okay.
The fact that they accepted the MR and they're acting on the MR, that's basic. It's the right of any aggrieved party or a losing party to seek for a reconsideration, to give the court a chance to correct itself if and when it is in error.
But they said immediately, attorney, immediately executory, and then they repeated it again as they asked for the replies and the comments.
There's a difference between finality and immediate executory.
Okay.
I give you a simple example. No? In injecting cases, it is immediately executory, and some administrative cases, it's immediately executory, but the court can eventually decide in the final decision that it is in favor of the other party. So they just undo what was done.
Do you want to use a metaphor kagaya ng mga nanliligaw or yung mga sinaing na hindi nahilaw?
Basketball.
Para mas maintindihan ng ating, alam mo, kunyari hindi kami masyadong, it's hard, it's difficult to go through all these legalese.
That's
baka meron
correct.
kayo, yung executory na yan, meron ba kayong naiisip?
But it's very difficult, and I would rather not do that, no, to make because it will not add to the clarity.
Okay.
It will further confuse our people. Yung mga ikaw na sinaing, yung panliligaw, it's cute. It may be an attempt to address address the massa or those who don't understand legalese, but I don't think it will add to the clarity. So I will not even attempt to.
So yung sinabi ni Senator Marcoleta medyo nakagulo pa sa tingin ninyo?
Yes, makakagulo pa. So I think now we wait for what the Supreme Court will do. Maganda nga na pinag-uusapan sa Senado and they're acting on it as the Senate. So we'll have to respect whatever the decision is. Binoto natin mga yan, no? Or kung yung binoto natin hindi naman nanalo, so pasensya tayo. So again, the ball goes back to the Supreme Court ngayon kasi may MR eh. So tingnan natin, let's see what the Supreme Court will do with the MR.
Well, Attorney, my question is particularly on the doctrine of operative facts and why this ruling of the Supreme Court applies retroactively instead of prospectively. And what's the impact of that? Dun sa mga previous impeachment cases, gaya ng pinoint out ni Senator Tito Soto, what happens now to the impeachment of former President Estrada, of Chief Justice Corona? Will it also be null and void?
Well, there, of course, those who would want it to be null and void and, vindicate those who were already convicted, maaari nilang sabihin yan. So they can quote that or they can use that kind of logic. But I doubt it if that would be effective. Again, you need the Supreme Court to rule on those things. So you have to file a case before the Supreme Court, and let's see what they do about it. Will they consistently apply the retroactive effectivity of their more recent ruling or not? It depends. But, we cannot also automatically apply this new doctrine to all the past cases. Again, you need the Supreme Court perhaps to rule on those things. Hindi rin pwede. Maaaring you can use it as an argument. As a matter of fact, those who question the fairness and the serious implications of this much criticized ruling is using that. And you can't blame them. You can't blame them. These are things that perhaps ordinary people can, understand or can relate to.
Attorney, can we go back to that archiving versus tabling? Because I think that's kind of, to a normal person, it may sound the same, right? But of course, Tito Soto is on the table side, and Senator Marcoleta brought forth the archiving side. So if in archive, we discussed this earlier, sabi nga ni Senator Tito, baka good as dead na siya. And you mentioned because of his experience, you kind of agree with him, but they were arguing on the floor in the Senate na pwede naman siyang buhayin ulit, pending kung anong sinabi po nung SC.
But it was, we were hopeful it was going towards that direction. But if you notice, when the majority floor leader amended the motion to dismiss of Senator Marcoleta, he didn't include the earlier amendments proposed by Senator Cayetano. So,
To adhere
again,
to the Constitution?
yes,
To the Supreme Court?
Yeah, and depending on what will happen in the MR, then they will act accordingly. Wala na yun. If you notice, nawala yun. It's just to archive, period.
So talagang, yun na nga, kung manalo na yung archive, which is mukhang, predictably, that's what's going to happen, then wala na talaga. But what if the SC says something?
Well, even if the SC doesn't say anything, assuming, they reverse themselves and say they were mistaken, so they're correcting themselves. So the Senate had jurisdiction. It again boils down to the vote by the senators. If they really want to, they can revive the case and pull it out of the archive and continue. That's very possible. But since they are a collegial body, you'll have to get the necessary votes to do that.
And the 19.5, you can already assume that this is how it will go. This is how they draw the line politically.
It's pretty obvious. Well, of course, we would like to presume and give them the benefit of the doubt that people are voting according to their conscience, their knowledge of what's right or wrong, or out of respect for the Supreme Court, or for pure politics. We give it to them because, admittedly, impeachment really is political in nature, and
But we must clarify also, attorney, that they explained that they do want a trial. It's just that the process was flawed. Some of them in their explanation of the votes.
Yes, of course, because it's also very clear in the Supreme Court decision that, you can file again by next year, February, just observe the 1-year ban and then do it better this time. And the problem is the Supreme Court added requirements to what the plain language of the Constitution is. So that's one of the criticisms of those who are assailing the soundness of this decision.
All right. We thank you for talking to us, Attorney Egon Cayosa, former president of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines and a constitutional law expert.